The moment the distillation column at the El Coil refinery burst into a towering inferno, Russia's industrial heartbeat began collapsing in real time. The shockwave ripped through steel pipelines and storage tanks, igniting reservoirs of crude and transforming the skyline into a rolling wall of flame. What had been seconds earlier the quiet pre-dawn calm of Russia's Volga region became a sunrise sculpted from burning gasoline. At precisely 3:47 a.m., a coordinated strike by 4 Ukrainian FPV drones delivered by their mothership hit with such surgical synchronicity that the entire refinery folded into chaos. From the outside, it looked like a single perfectly executed attack, a flash of brilliance in the night. But the firestorm that followed was not an isolated event. It was the final movement in a 6-hour operation that had been engineered with near mathematical precision. To understand how Ukraine created that moment, the story must rewind to its calculated beginning. The operation began in total darkness at 9 p.m. on November 17, 2025. 10 Ukrainian Bula-class mothership drones lifted silently into the night from separate launch sites, each carrying 4 FPV-1 Assassin drones magnet-locked beneath them. In the air, they linked into a unified hunting network, an AI-coordinated pack that stretched across hundreds of miles yet moved with the cohesion of a single organism. For the team assigned to strike the El Coil refinery, the route demanded flying barely 50 feet above the surface of the Volga River. At that altitude, even a brief navigation error meant failure. A cold splash, an immediate loss of signal, and a drone disappearing beneath dark water. But that low flight kept the drones beneath most radar horizons, making them effectively invisible. By 3:30 a.m., after almost 6 hours of ghost-like movement, Russian detection systems finally spotted something. In El Coil's security room, a lone Pantsir S-1 operator watched his screen flicker to life. Normally empty, it now showed 4 faint contacts approaching at low altitude. 4 targets, low, fast, he shouted. Instantly, the refinery's last defensive line activated. 2 Panzer units shifted their cannons and missile pods, hydraulics whining in the cold pre-dawn air. Russia believed it had caught the drones early enough. It was terribly wrong. At 3:40 a.m., the Ukrainian AI guiding the lead mothership executed its most ruthless deception. Through its thermal camera, it spotted a flock of migrating geese cutting across the sky. The AI ordered an immediate split maneuver. 3 of the FPV carriers broke into erratic, bird-like flight patterns to confuse tracking algorithms. The 4th drone did something more sinister. It locked its transmitter onto the geese and amplified their heat signatures, transforming the harmless flock into what looked, on Russian radar, like a huge incoming missile wave. On the operator's screen, the threat picture changed instantly. What had been 4 small blips became 3 minor contacts and 1 massive signature. Doctrine dictated the next move. Destroy the largest threat first. It was the wrong choice. Missiles roared into the sky, striking the false target in an explosion of feathers and debris. For 12 critical seconds, the Panzer's radar displayed only ghosts. The targeting systems were blind, exactly as the Ukrainian AI intended. Those 12 seconds were more than enough. All 4 Bula motherships surged forward at full throttle. At 3:45 a.m., they released their 16 FPV drones, which peeled away like miniature attack jets. Russian gunners snapped out of confusion and opened fire, blasting the sky with cannon fire and sending tracers slicing across the darkness. 12 FPVs were destroyed, turning into flaming wrecks that fell onto storage tanks and started new fires. But 4 survived, and at 3:47 a.m., Bula 4 did not withdraw like the others. Instead, it dove with its remaining FPVs. 5 machines, 1 mothership, and 4 assassins hit the refinery simultaneously. 4 slammed into the main distillation tower. 1 shredded the refinery's control room. A billion-dollar facility collapsed into molten ruin. The final drone transmission was a mechanical whisper. Drop confirmed. Target locked. 3, 2, 1. Impact. And the destruction of the El Coil refinery was only the first phase. While Russian commanders shouted into emergency channels about the eruption in Nizhny Novgorod, the remaining 6 members of Ukraine's Wolfpack were still hunting in near silence, closing in on their own high-value strategic targets. At 4:15 a.m., 3 Bula drones approached the Starita plant, Russia's primary producer of military-grade kerosene, the fuel that kept Russia's Southern Air Command airborne. From 15 miles out, 2 motherships released 8 FPV drones, while the third, Bula 8, climbed high above them. Its role was not to strike, but to die. At 4:25 a.m., Russia activated its Krasuka 4 electronic warfare system. A massive wave of GPS jamming power swept across the region. Instantly, the 8 FPV drones went blind. A nearby Pantsir fired and destroyed 3 drones in rapid succession. Russian crews believed the defense was working flawlessly. Then Bula 8 dove directly at the air defenses. The Panzer locked on immediately and fired 2 missiles. At that exact moment, Bula 9 dove as well, forcing the system to split its remaining ready missiles. 4 missiles, 4 kills, 2 spectacular mid-air explosions. The sacrifice was deliberate. Their deaths bought exactly 12 seconds where the Panzer's tubes were empty, and that was all the remaining FPVs needed. Still blind, they followed the source of the Krasuka jamming signal like moths navigating by heat. 5 drones slipped through the defenses. A minute later, 2 FPVs slammed into the main reactor housing. Another shredded the cooling pumps. The last 2 crashed short, but the damage was already catastrophic. Russia's Southern Air Command lost its primary fuel source. A $2 billion asset went offline in a single minute. Panic spread across Russia's command structure. Believing a coordinated decapitation strike was underway, Russia redeployed 8 of its best air defense systems, including Pantsir and Tor units, from frontline positions. Every system pulled back created a gap for Ukrainian HIMARS and Storm Shadow missiles to exploit. Ukraine had not just hit targets, it had manipulated Russia into weakening its own battlefield shield. At 5 a.m., 2 more Bula drones prepared to strike Volgrad's main electrical substation, the power source for a vital military rail hub. From 10 miles out, they released 8 FPVs. This time, Russia was ready. A Tor M2 operator spotted the incoming drones and launched 2 missiles, destroying 3 FPVs in seconds. The defense seemed airtight. But the Ukrainian AI understood the Tor's fatal weakness: a single engagement radar. Blind it, even briefly, and the entire system became useless. 2 FPVs flew straight up, acting as sacrificial decoys. The Tor shot them down, but while its radar was angled skyward, the remaining attackers slipped beneath its horizon. By the time the radar rotated back, it was too late. At 5:15 a.m., 3 FPVs struck home, 1 destroying the central switching gear, 2 severing high-voltage transmission lines. A blue electrical arc lit the sky, and then Volgrad went dark. 16,000 homes and a critical military rail hub blacked out instantly. At 5:30 a.m., the final Bula drone took a northern route toward Rilsk, targeting the railway switching station connecting Kursk to occupied Luhansk, a key artery for Russian supplies. From 12 miles out, it released 4 FPV drones. The defending Tor M2 shot down 2 immediately. The radar rotated, hunting for more. Then the Ukrainian AI executed a final psychological trick. 1 FPV sent a microburst packet on the Tor's internal diagnostic frequency. The system flashed an emergency error: cascade failure, missile launcher 3B. The Russian crew panicked, staring down at their consoles for 3 critical seconds. With their eyes off the radar, the drones vanished completely. At 5:38 a.m., 1 FPV obliterated the switching tower. The second slammed into an ammunition train preparing to depart. The resulting explosion shook the entire city and sent a shockwave rolling across the border into Luhansk. The last domino of a 6-hour operation had fallen, and all of it traced back to the decisive moment at 3:47 a.m., when FPV-1 and Bula 4 plunged into El Koil's distillation tower. That single strike mattered because Russian crews had bypassed safety protocols during overnight repairs. Their complacency turned a precision hit into a catastrophic chain reaction. The consequences were staggering. 40% of Moscow's gasoline supply went offline. The Southern Air Command lost its kerosene feedstock. A vital rail hub went dark. A major supply artery to Luhansk was severed. Russia was forced to pull elite air defenses away from the front. All of this damage, nearly $5 billion worth, in exchange for 3 fallen motherships and 36 FPVs. Less than $1 million in Ukrainian equipment had crippled core components of Russia's wartime economy. The larger message was brutal and clear. You can build a $500 million air defense shield, but it is worthless if your enemy is clever enough to throw an $8,000 drone around it. Ukraine isn't merely fighting harder, it's fighting smarter, re-engineering modern warfare in real time. And Russia is learning the cost of that evolution. 1 burning refinery, 1 darkened rail hub, 1 crippled air command at a time. If you were the Russian Minister of Defense waking up to this $5 billion disaster, what would you do next? How do you defend against a strategy built on mothership drones, AI illusions, sacrificial decoys, and psychological traps? Your answer might influence a future analysis.